And we are live. Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Jamal here from Papercut Magazine and Review Me, and we're chilling with the awesome Dani Brubaker. Say that right?
That's right.
Yeah, she's based out of LA. She shoots amazing fashion, editorial, and advertising and portrait photography. Absolutely amazing work. Very cool style, out of black and white. And yeah, Dani, if you don't mind, just quickly giving a quick 1 minute blurb about yourself, and then we'll get into it.
1 minute blurb. Hi, I'm Dani Brubaker. I've been shooting for about 10 years. I come from an art director background. I was an art director for 14 years prior to shooting and decided to give it a shot.
Nice. Wow. So, and yeah, let's actually get into that. So I've noticed that on a couple interesting kind of people's trajectory into how they got started in the industry. And, you know, you see stylists or creative directors or artists or kind of things like that. Did that help you transition into doing photography, knowing that you had that kind of art direction background? And by art direction, is it more like graphic design art direction or more like photo shoot art direction? Because that's also another thing that's tricky.
Totally different thing. Mine was more graphic design. I worked at an ad agency for a while and for a long time actually. And I never felt really good doing my job. And so anyway, I always entertained being a photographer, but I always thought it was way too complicated. So I never did it. And then one day I decided to pick up a camera and just start shooting. So.
Wow. What agency was that you were working at? Or a number of agencies, because obviously 14 years.
Yeah, the main one that I worked with is called Ackerman McQueen. They're based out of Oklahoma. So I was with them.
Cool. Okay. And then did you, obviously, so what was your first thing when you were like, okay, I'm just going to be a photographer? So did you pick up, was it film? Was it, DSLR? Like, you just, how'd you approach it?
It's kind of a crazy story, but I had moved to LA to do art direction out here, and I was working for a company that did a lot of the one sheets and movie posters, and they did a lot of the Academy nominated films for like so it's basically all those for-your consideration ads. And I was driving in LA, which took me about an hour and a half to get to work every day, and I was miserable. And then I was married at the time, and my husband bought me a camera for Christmas because I was like, I need a hobby. I'm going crazy. And I didn't even take the camera out of the box for the first 4 months because I was petrified of it. And then I finally did it and had no clue what I was doing. And just started kind of shooting kids, like friends' kids. And a friend of mine that's a really good photographer that she's been represented and she's done a lot of commercial stuff. She was like, you should go get an agent. So I loaded up, a box full of like little tear sheets that I had done for I started doing like smaller clothing lines. I'd go walk the magic floor in Vegas and I would offer to shoot their brand for free if they would let me use the images, in my book. So that's kind of how I built up a small portfolio, was just shooting for smaller brands. And then I went to New York and got signed right away, and there it was.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Yeah. And did you meet with multiple agents, or was it just, LGA, boom, or like how'd that work?
No, LGA is actually my third agent. I met with quite a few agents, and they all said no, except for one, which was PMI. They had a photographer named Anna Minky who used to shoot a bunch of kids, and she was kind of transitioning out of kids, so they thought it would be a perfect fit. And so I was with them for about a year, and then eventually moved over to Trisha Joyce. And Trisha is the one that really, developed me as a photographer. I think I owe my career to her, really.
Nice. And then how long were you with Trish until you moved to LGA? Which
I had another in between.
Yeah.
So I was with Trisha for about 3 years, and then I had had a meeting through a mutual friend with art department with Jordan, and they offered for me to come over there, and I thought, it's, sometimes when you're with an agency, it can get a little mundane and you keep shooting the same stuff and you're not challenged. And I was ready to take another jump, basically. So when our department offered me to move over there, I moved over. So I was with them for about 5 years, and I just recently went over to LGA. And I went to LGA for worldwide representation instead of just New York.
Yeah, so that's pretty amazing. Yeah, I mean, they're one of the top agencies. So the fact and the fact that you got the worldwide distribution obviously makes life easier, instead of, you see a lot of photographers where they're represented by like Blood and Co over here, and they're represented by, Bernstein and Julie over there. And this is like, I mean,
I did that. I was with a German agent while I was with Trisha, and it was just complicated to keep, the calendar kind of situated, and, it was hard.
Yeah, it would seem complicated because obviously time zones and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it definitely seems very complicated. Yeah, so let's get into a question, which you kind of answered this, but I guess we'll attack it anyways. And the question was, how did you survive early on when you were starting out? And you kind of mentioned that, but just to attack it specifically.
Like survive financially, or?
Yeah, I think it says, did you shoot weddings, assist, work at Kinko's? What was some of the things you were doing, which you kind of mentioned walking the floor, but I guess go into that more.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I didn't, while I was married. I'm since divorced, and my husband says that I cheated on him with my camera because I fell in love with it and started shooting. But when I first started out, I didn't have, I'm a mom, I have a daughter. She was 15 or 16. So it was like, I didn't have to be there all the time for her because she was having her life. And, my husband was working, so I didn't have to make a lot of money. So those first couple of years, I just started, just throwing myself into shooting and building a book. So I wasn't starving at the time, which is a blessing.
Nice. And then in terms of kind of how you taught yourself, it really, it didn't seem like you had some mentors, or were you just like literally took the camera and you just played with it all day until you figured out what you liked?
I was obsessed. And you just learn, you teach yourself, you just learn what, I mean, I hire a really good crew for doing any kind of studio scenario, because I think, lighting technicians are lighting technicians. They know how to light. And I've been blessed to work with some amazing guys. And, they've taught me along the way. So I'm like extremely grateful for them. And natural light, I've always been able to see, I feel like I have been able to see where natural light falls and what I like.
Got you. So for you, it was just really, and you do hear that some people do learn from people, they go to school, but then you hear about others like yourself who just like, they just get obsessed, which I think is kind of the best way to learn, just in terms of the speed of it. It's just like go in there and practice as much as you possibly can, if you have that, luck to be able to be in that position. So
I think you can find your own style by teaching yourself, because those little happy accidents can sometimes be, I've gotten a lot of jobs from stuff that I've lit in the studio myself, and technically it's not perfect lighting, but somebody likes it, so it's, if you're stuck in a box and you got to do it a certain way, then you never get to experiment, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And then here, let's talk another question here. So, and this is actually pretty fun. And you get into shooting, motion, and I love your motion. We'll get into that further, but how necessary do you feel that it is for people to do still life and do motion and not just still photography?
I think it's getting to be where it's crucial that you do both.
And then what's your split been like? Is it like 30 still, or like, what's kind of the split you've been seeing, at least we'll say even over the last 6 months?
Well, I found it, right now I work with a couple of DPs on set, because for me, it's like, jumping back and forth, and plus shot counts have jumped up to be so high that, if I have a DP that knows how I shoot and can shoot over my shoulder and not, bump me in the head all the time, and we can work really well together, That's the crucial thing. So they're basically holding the camera and shooting, and I'm directing and getting the stills at the same time. That's been the best scenario for me.
Got you. So really bringing together a team, which is very crucial in photography or videography. So really kind of getting your team down. And speaking of team, is there, what kind of base of people have you built up, and how did you do that? Just kind of, obviously I'm guessing it's people you really work with, like you said. How did that kind of come about? Obviously organically, but touch upon any specifics. That'd be cool.
Well, one scenario was I used to work with a bunch of different people, and then my first assistant, I recently lost him about 1.5 years ago because he moved to Florida. But I met him actually because one assistant was scheduled to go to Hawaii with me on a job and canceled the night before the flight was leaving. Wow. And he sent a replacement, and the replacement was a gift from God, basically. And we got along great, and we ended up working together for like 5 years straight before he moved.
Nice. Cool. And on the, is that more still, or is this video, or both?
That's still. Yeah, he was my lighting guy. And then since then, I work with a different, there's about 3 guys that I kind of rotate. One guy won't travel, one guy likes to travel. So it varies. Yeah.
And then you're a very interesting photographer. So if somebody goes to your website, and we'll just do that. We'll just actually go to your website. But if somebody were to go to your website, they would have the impression that you shoot, actually, let's just make it full screen here. They would have the impression that you shoot mostly grown-ups and editorials and that kind of stuff. But it would seem that in terms of where you're, getting compensated for work, it's all within your child work. So talk about like that weird, like you shoot editorial creatively, but grown-ups, but then you make all the money on the advertising side for kids. So I guess kind of talk about the difference in like attacking both those two. Lovely work, by the way. Love this work. It's amazing stuff.
I started shooting kids because, coming from an advertising background, you kind of figure out, I went about photography as, it's not fine art. This is a business. And so I wanted to figure out a scenario that I could be successful, or at least have a chance with a niche market. And kids was a niche market. There's probably about 10 photographers worldwide that are shooting all the kid campaigns, and we're on rotation basically. And every once in a while there'll be somebody new, but it's, with kids, they're a creature of habit. It seems like the clients like to hire the same people over and over. And then, so with kids too can be tricky because the industry, you fall in love with these children and you watch them grow, and then you can see, how the industry can change them. So it's a mental thing that I have to keep in check, to make sure that the kids aren't getting, becoming little monsters, And so I wanted to start shooting adults just to have a break sometimes from that. Yeah, but finding that point of view, because shooting a kid, they're so natural and they're so, you can just shoot them and get something magical. But shooting an adult that has, they get stuck in their head and they get trapped, there's a lot of, they build walls up, so to speak. So getting those walls down and getting them to be real people like children, that took me about 1.5 years to kind of figure out that formula. Gotcha. Maybe a couple of years, and a lot of money, because I would test and spend a fortune on testing. And I tried to do more fashion stuff originally, thinking that, I was hoping that my clients that hired me for kids fashion would hire me for adult fashion. But as we all know, that market is extremely saturated and tricky to break into. And, being in LA, the models aren't so fabulous here as far as fashion models. So I would test, and then it would be either the styling was off, the hair and makeup was off, or I was off, or, you know, so it was a learning curve to say, okay, where am I going to go with this?
Got you. And so, yeah, it seems like a lot of trial and error. And I think one thing that that I really like that you approached it was, you know, you went in like photography is a business. Not necessarily like fine art photography, but photography is a business. And I really like how you were like, okay, where can I make my mark? Where is a gap? And yeah, I mean, you don't really think of a lot of people shooting kids photography, but if you go down the list, you have shot for, it looks like every single brand imaginable. There's Zara and there's H&M, Gucci, Ralph, like you pretty much kind of monopolized it, and it's a smart play. And I think a lot of other photographers can really learn from that, from how you did that.
Let me tell you.
I'm basically just complimenting you. I think that's smart. We have another question here. And they said, how much does the LGA agency help with your career?
Oh my God, I love them, number one. I've only been with them for a couple of weeks actually. But so far it's been phenomenal. I don't know if maybe, you know, speaking about other agencies, I can tell you like what Trisha did for me in the very beginning. With her, you know, I had created this portfolio that was basically, you know, all the images they looked like they were an ad campaign. So say, for instance, I wanted to shoot for Ralph Lauren, I would go do a test that looked just like what Ralph Lauren was doing. Because in my head, I thought, oh, you know, this is what they need to see this, you know, or they're going to hire me. And so what Trisha did was when I first started with her, she was like, you know, let me see all the outtakes, the unretouched, all the outtakes from these shoots. So I gave it to her and she created this entire portfolio with all my outtakes. They weren't retouched. They were kind of not color correct. You know, it was just raw images. And I was freaking out because I was like, how's anybody going to hire me from this? You know, blah, blah, blah. And I think within 30 days, I was shooting Calvin Klein kids. So she definitely knew what she was doing. And the comment that I heard back was, she told me, is clients need to see, you know, what the raw image is going to be like right off the back, because they have to figure out, you know, how long it's going to take them to get it to that place of a final ad. If it's already a final looking piece, they have no clue. So they're kind of scared of you. Does that make sense?
Interesting. That's kind of counterintuitive, although not really. And so we'll touch upon this more, but I hear a lot of photographers and they say that it's actually their personal work that gets them a lot of projects from ad agencies and editorials. And I think that actually goes to talk about what you said. It's like people are trying to like put out this flashy stuff, but people really want to see like, what's your true point of view? What, you know, can we actually expect from you? And I think Trish actually did that by getting your untouched stuff. But I guess talk about that more. And you have a really rich personal project segment. So talk about, you know, how do you approach that and what's your idea for your personal projects and how's that evolved?
It's you know, it's tricky because for me, when I get burnout, when I feel burnout, I've got to go shoot. And like this last weekend, I was on a 4-day shoot up in San Francisco, and it was an amazing job. It was like, you know, it was giving back, and it's a pretty special job. But I just took my camera and I went down to Tenderloin in San Francisco, and I just shot a bunch of the homeless people. And it was, you know, I need to do that kind of stuff. And like I was on a job in South Africa one time, and I had the producer take me to the township, and I shot all these children that, you know, were very, very poor and living in these shacks. And it was, you know, you just see happiness, you know, but I like to see dark side too. So I like to do different kinds of things in my personal work.
And what's kind of the current thing you're working on now? What are you kind of currently exploring?
I think it's this homeless thing. You know, I grew up very, very poor in Oklahoma, and I, to this day, I have a fear that I'm going to be homeless. And I think just trying to connect with that somehow and see this. Um, so that's, you know, I plan on to continue shooting this. I don't know what it's going to become, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, and so pretty much for you, it's just really more about exploration and not necessarily a final product, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely think a lot of young photographers, or we'll just say emerging, because they could be still be old, like yourself. Not that you're old. I mean, like they started later. You look very young. You look great, but you know what I'm trying to say.
No, I had an experience where when I was looking at different agencies, I went to a big agent that had kind of been pursuing me, and she told me, because I procrastinated for a couple of years, and when I went to meet with her, she said, "Listen, we're looking at photographers that are 16, 17 years old, or the iconic like Peter Lindbergh," and she's like basically saying that people my age are out. It's over. And I was like, lovely.
Yeah, clearly that person, we don't know who they are, but they were wrong. But I guess let's talk about that. Yeah, it seems like either you have to now somehow be established or like just be starting out, but there's no room for
starting out, you got 2 million followers, you're golden.
Yeah.
That's the ticket.
Regardless of skill. So yeah, let's talk about that. You have a little bit of following yourself. You got like 10K Instagram, and what's been your social strategy?
I get a lot. I mean, the cool thing is I get a lot of parents of these kids that I shoot, and then the kids are doing it. But I don't know what the secret is on this social media thing. I have no earthly idea. I've shot this kid that has 2 million followers. I've shot him a bunch of times, and then it's like, how many followers do you necessarily get from that? Who knows?
Yeah.
But I've got 10,000 and he's got 2 million. So.
Yeah, that's pretty. Hey, but hey, 10,000 is pretty good. Let's get into this. Actually, probably could be the last thing you shot, but the question is, what was your most creatively challenging advertising shoot and why? Oh, and a side follow up would be, what was your most creatively challenging editorial? I guess advertising campaign first. Was it that recent 16 days in a row campaign, or?
No, I've done worse than I've done 6 weeks straight, which was a killer. But no, I think the most challenging is like, for instance, Hugo Boss. I've shot their kid campaign, I think 12 seasons, and the big thing with them is they want their kids to match their adult. And the adult campaign, and Nizam Vendu's been shooting their adult for a long time. So what happens is they give me a reference, and I've got to match the light. So that, I think, has taught me a lot about lighting, because I have no clue how they went about doing it, but I have to match it, and I have to do it in such a way that it's a little bit softer for the kids, but it's definitely, the same setup, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. So we're looking at this Hugo Boss. Can you see that right here?
Yeah. So if you look at this blue and white right there.
Right here?
I don't know if you could find if you go to there, you can see the kids on the top, the black one too. Their recent adult campaign was just like that.
Got you. So for you, the difficulty was in trying to make sure that this had that same crisp Hugo Boss look that the adults have.
Exactly. And the same lighting.
Got you. Yeah, I mean, this obviously looks amazing. This definitely kind of has a Hugo Boss feel to it for sure. When you see their campaigns and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, especially this one right here, actually, it looks even a little bit more kind of dramatic, but yet it's on the beach, which is a very different, that's cool. Nice.
So I think that client, I mean, I love them to death. They're an amazing, and very loyal. It's always been really tricky to say, okay. I mean, I've even said, can't you take pictures behind the scenes before the shoot so I can know what they did?
Yeah.
Of course not. So I just have to you know, we have to work and figure it out.
Got you. Yeah. So kind of trying to match visually what someone else has set up. Yeah, I guess that would be, so you don't get to bring your own complete kind of creative control to it. It's more about trying to really do what they said. Which, so speaking of which, in terms of advertising versus editorial, besides the pay, which is there's none of editorial, which I now know, and it completely 100%. And then there's like advertising, whoa, you know, big shot stuff. What besides that? What are the key differences
Between editorial and
advertising? Yeah, for you and yours.
I mean, sometimes it depends on what magazine it is. You know, some magazines, you know, will make you shoot their advertisers, so it's like it's kind of like a job. You know what I mean? It's like you lose creative control. And, you know, others, you can just, it's a free for all and you can do whatever you want, which, you know, it just varies on what magazine it is.
Got you. Which magazines are more creative? Which ones are more do it this way that you've seen so far?
I've been shooting for this magazine called Boys by Girls lately. And I love that magazine. It's just, it's a favorite. And it's, you know, it's all about women shooting guys. And it's just, it's really cool. I mean, they let me do whatever. And I love black and white. It's my favorite stuff. So they let me do that all the time. And Flaunt's pretty good about letting you have creative freedom.
Gotcha. And then on the other side, more dictatorship ones, what are we looking at?
Like, should I even mention it?
We're just shoot the shit. Feel free. Throw it out there.
I mean, there's kids magazines that are really, you know, they have to, you know, they got to keep their advertisers happy. So, you know, they'll send where you can't mix designers. And so the stylist hands are tied because they've got to put, you know, one designer, one outfit on a kid, you know, and it's, you know, those can be tricky and they're not as much fun.
Gotcha. Let's attack another question here from Ruth. Let's see. I think we actually maybe kind of answered this, but we'll look into it anyway. She says, Dani, did you have a clear idea of how you wanted your work to look, your style is really evolved? Was that planned and organic? And you kind of touched upon that, but I guess kind of how did you get to this particular style that you have now, which you also do really, whenever you can, try to shoot a lot of black and white. What do you really like about that? And how did you get there?
I just think it's an emotion, you know, it's like, I think it tells more of a story for me. As far as my work, what was the question again about how my work evolved? The style? I think it's just where you are in your life. You know, I mean, we're to a shoot and because basically we're capturing what we see and how we're feeling about that subject. You know, I can shoot somebody, and you know, there's this male model named Justin Gossman. He's doing quite a few things, but I shoot him so different than other people, but I see him differently. So it's interesting to see, you know, it's all about our eyes and how we view them.
Got you. Can you see my screen now? Let's do your personal work and kind of just talk about some of the images and you know, how do you go about relating to the
a lot of times I like to be a fly on the wall and get to where that's what I do on my kids shoots is I get down and I play with the kids and I run around with them, so I don't want them to know that I'm actually shooting them. So I try to just capture the moment. This picture on the far left over there, the older man, that's my father. And that was one of the first pictures I ever took.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of your first photographs ever. Yeah, you can. Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. And I think that probably helped you because you already had a relationship with him instead of trying to start out, you know, new with some new people that you don't know about.
And then the girl over on the far right with the mask on, if you go up a little bit, that's one of the first pictures I ever took.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a friend of
And
mine's
that's your
daughter.
daughter? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. But once again, somebody you knew. Um, yeah. And so I guess, you know, when you do attack set, and I guess we'll go grown up versus kids, but when you do kind of get on set, how do you, you know, kind of relate to your models or your subjects to kind of get them
Just,
to open up and let you
well,
capture them?
especially with children, I think children are kind of like dogs, they can sense if you're authentic or not about them. So, I'm just real with them and I play with them. I do a lot of practical jokes. Um, another thing that I do on set is my digital tech is an amazing DJ. So he's playing music at the same time as teching for me. And I think it's important just to have a good vibe on set. Because if somebody's down in your crew, it can just taint the entire set, you know?
So I'm guessing this image right here is a
Yeah.
little
So
homage to
I did a
Steve
whole series because
Blurry.
I did a commercial job and the client said I sucked at lighting. And so I ended up doing an entire day of just recreating all these things. We shot that in a day. And
The Michael
so I just
Jackson one
wanted to
right here,
practice my
obviously.
lighting and do that. That stuff's probably 5 or 6 years old, I think. I don't know, but it was fun. And it was images that had inspired me as a photographer.
Got you. So I guess that's probably an interesting kind of way to approach it, is to just kind of recreate, like you said, some of the images that you like. I mean, that's interesting. Somebody said your lighting sucks, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, but it's a blow when they say that. But you gotta, and it did suck. It was in studio, and I didn't have the right people around me, and it sucked.
Got you. Somebody's saying I can't hear the questions. Hi, Vania. So they're actually, we don't like, I don't ask them like completely because sometimes a lot of times it just comes up naturally, but you'll be able to go back and reference. It says answered questions. You can click on those and it goes right to the answer. But yeah, all the questions have been answered multiple times actually, just naturally through conversation, if that answers your question. And then let's see, here we go. One of the final questions I'm seeing is, what advice do you have for a fashion photographer that has built a portfolio consisting mostly of model tests like yourself, but needs magazine tear sheets featuring editorial work, and photo editors want to see the editorial in your portfolio or the tear sheets? So kind of how did you transition from, having to test to get those tear sheets?
Well, I'm trying to think of how I did it. I mean, the big thing is with the agency, on the kids, I just started shooting. I was doing a ton of tests, and the agent is what really helped me get into the magazines and doing the paid jobs. On as far as the adult stuff, doing editorial, that was really, really hard for me to break into that, because people think that if you shoot kids, you're a one-trick pony. But in reality, shooting kids is so flipping hard and exhausting. So it was always frustrating to say, oh my God, they think I can only shoot kids. But I did have a couple of magazines actually give me a shot, and that's been pretty special.
So for you, it was really just hustling.
This is a hustle. It's all about the hustle. It's all about, I market myself. I don't leave it for my agent. I use Constant Contact. So I send out an email promo with my latest work on average every 3 weeks. Other photographers that I know send out mailers and promo pieces. But for me as an art director, like back in the day, I would throw all that away. So to me, I don't do that, because I feel like it's a lot of money and I don't know that it pays back. So I think just, keeping your word out, getting your work out there and just being seen is what really helps.
Got you. So let's actually talk about this. So coming from that agency background, it clearly seems like that gave you a little bit of insight into how it works, which is, yeah, they get those mailers and they just kind of trash them. in the
Really
digital age. So I guess you did anyway. We won't tell anybody. No. So I guess if you were the person that some of these photographers were trying to reach, or friends that you know of still in the industry, what are the things that would resonate besides, you said, doing email every couple of weeks? What are the things that you know and has worked for you?
I think emails work a lot, and I think just the social media aspect of it is helping a lot. I'm pretty sure that I got this last job I shot from my social media of my personal work, where I just post personal work on my Instagram or whatever. And I'm pretty sure I got that gig from that. I didn't straight up ask, but they had me shoot exactly that kind of style.
Got you. And then, considering that you're coming from, and you kind of touched upon this, you're coming from shooting for kind of brands, the fashion brands. Do they work the same way as, say, like I heard, McDonald's was with Mark Loon from Bersian and Drewley, he did a triple bid. Do you have to do any of that stuff, or is it kind of like they just go, I'm going to hire this person and that's it, because they don't really care about budget? Like, how does that
I think
work?
most of the fashion stuff, the kids fashion, let's just stay in.
Yeah,
that's what I can talk about.
Yeah,
I think they have a budget, and that's what it is. And I do think that they put a couple of people on hold, and then make their decision. It's getting to be where now, you used to know about a month ahead if the job's confirmed. Now it gets up to 2 weeks before it's confirmed.
Got you.
So, a lot of these catalogs and, they just have a budget. This is what they pay. You either take it or you don't.
Interesting. So there's pluses and minuses in that you at least know you're not like competing against other people, but at the same time, which is good, but at the same time, it would be that maybe if there are certain costs that you can't like put in a bid to say get it based on the creativity. It's just like, okay, this is it. We're Gucci. You're going to shoot it or you're not. So yeah, plus and minuses. Got you. Cool. Is it, anybody else have any other questions? I feel like we've touched upon a lot of different stuff. It doesn't seem, oh, here we go. So actually, Garen, I will put this in the list to help you out. But the question is, have you ever taken on a 365-day or 30-day photography challenge? If yes, what were some of the things? Or maybe to flip that, what challenges did you set for yourself that you attacked?
I've never done the 30-day or the 300. I've always thought that would be amazing to do, but I haven't done it. What a little challenges I've set. That's a tricky question. I think, lately I've just been like, I've got to shoot a lot more personal work. I've got to shoot stuff that feeds my soul, and if the job's not doing that, then I have to go out, after the shoot and go shoot something that is going to make me feel alive again, and be reconnected with it.
So, and that's just a constant challenge. It's not, 365. It's just like whenever you need the feeling, it's like, okay, I need to constantly shoot personal work.
Yeah, for sure.
Makes total sense. I think that's it. Yeah. I mean, I usually after about 30 minutes of like hearing all this awesome stuff, I'm just like, yeah, okay, I'm fulfilled. That's what I wanted to do. Yes. Let's, so Vania, if you were on, what we'll do is if you didn't hear one of the questions, I'll invite you on so that you could ask a question that if I didn't touch upon, I think that would be cool if you were saying you couldn't hear. So Vania, if you're out there, I'm inviting you on, and we'll invite, I have two Vanias, that's weird. And we'll invite Andrew on as well, since I think he asked the first question. So if you guys are watching, you see if you guys can jump on, and we'll get a quick four-way collaboration going. Because I think I'm done with questions. I can't think of anything else. I think your story is awesome. Your work is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else, feel free to throw a question on. Or you can talk about anything. What do you love about photography right now, and what don't you like about photography while we're waiting for them to come on?
It's starting to get a little freaky, I think, change, you know. But I think that happens all the time. I mean, I've only been shooting for 10 years, so I can't imagine what the other photographer, you know, when digital came out, how that change was freaking everyone out. But I definitely see a shift.
Gotcha. And then what do you love? What do what are you still liking about it?
It's fun, you know. I mean, it's a blessed career. You get to travel the world. You get to go to different places. You meet cool people. It's fun.
Gotcha. So we have Andrew saying no camera and mic. What kind of computer are you on, Andrew? What's going on? He's on the world's first computer. No, I'm just messing around. All right. Well, let's see if we can get anybody else on. If anybody else would like to join us, yeah, we'd like to open this up. Dani is awesome. I'm sure you have other insights. Oh, Ruth says, any tips for approaching an agent?
Just do it.
Nike.
I think with agents, you've got to walk in. You got to get a face-to-face meeting, because I think they get hit up on by email quite a bit. And so I think it's better to go in person. Got you. So apparently all the users we have don't have camera and mics. It's amazing. No. Upgrade, people, upgrade. MacBook Pro, no. So here's a question from Vanya. She says, how do you feel about mixing your personal life and professional on social media? It's nerve-wracking, and because I'm I feel like I'm very private, but I don't think anybody has private lives anymore. And I also think that people want to know you somehow, you know? So, and I've gotten to the point in my life where, I'm no longer embarrassed about, the way that I grew. I used to be really didn't like my life growing up, in a small town in Oklahoma, being very poor and being very embarrassed about it. But now it's it's been the best gift ever. And, you just get to a place in life where you don't give a shit, and you're like, here it is. So that's how I approach it. And do you think because you kind of started later in your career that has actually maybe helped you a little bit more than, say, being some fresh, young thing? Maybe, I don't know. It's just, my daughter's 24 right now, and I just, I was telling somebody the other day, I think the best gift that I'm going to give her is this. I'm 48, so it's these are the best years really of my life right now, because I'm not caught up in this insecurity anymore. I'm not caught up with the competition, the game, the dance. It's it is what it is. It's been a beautiful life. And, in my 20s and 30s, I was always feeling inadequate and felt like I wasn't good enough, or I was, I had a lot of fear. For instance, I always wanted to be a photographer, but I had no clue. I thought, oh my God, it's so technical. You got to know all this stuff. And I never really tried it. I think I was 34 years old when I picked up the camera. So, if I was like I am now, back then, it would have, this party would have started a long time ago. Got you. And then so Vani has another question. So Vani, we did answer this. I can quickly jump in. It says, did you approach LGA or did they approach you? Did you get your own clients before signing with your agent? So I guess you kind of quickly touch upon that, but I know we did answer that question. I've been friends with one of the owners of LGA for about 6 years, and we've done this dance of going back and forth of me signing with them, not signing with them. And it's been this back and forth thing. And last year I started to feel really stagnant, and I wanted to start shooting adults. And I had a meeting with them, and there's an agent in New York, an agent in London. And for instance, in 2012 and 13, I was working in Europe about 70% of the time. So I really wanted to get that back because I love working over there. So, and the only way that was going to happen was have an agent on the ground in Europe. So I just, and I love my agent at art department. He was fabulous for the 5 years I was with him. But it's change. It just ignites something, and so I decided to go.
Nice. Yeah, go ahead.
And then regarding clients, one of the big things on going to an agent is, it's really expensive to market an artist and get them out there. It costs those agents money to get out there, to go to meetings and stuff. So if you go to an agent and you have a little bit of money coming in already, it's going to help them sign you, because they can, there's a little bit of money coming in to, cover their overhead while they're out there hustling.
Got you. Yeah, and I've definitely heard that too. And this goes back to your, what you said. It's either somebody's looking for, Brooklyn Beckham, who has 6 million followers, or people who are established in terms of agencies and clients. But if you could bring something to the table, that will really help you. I think that makes sense for really any kind of creative endeavor.
There's so many clients now that are shooting, like for instance, True Religion in LA, they've set up shop in this small little, room, and they're having photographers come in there, 3 or 4 days a week. And a lot of people are doing that. They're not wanting to go through agents. They're wanting to book the photographer direct. So, I think now is the opportunity for new photographers to get out there and go work directly with clients. And that's, once you do that, then you can go to an agent and end up going with this pocket full of clients. And when I first started, that wasn't happening. They were booking jobs through agencies and stuff, unless it was a really small line. But so many people are taking all of their creative in-house. Like, it's bizarre. It's a little scary, but that's what's going on. So it's good for up and coming.
Yeah, let's talk about that. And actually, we have a user on here who, member on here, Garrett, who was saying that he heard from some other photographers that he thinks it's going to all be through agents, but this counters that. And that actually goes to what I'm seeing too in another photographer who touched upon, you're seeing a lot of brands create their own in-house agencies. So you're actually even seeing now kind of like a middle-class photographer where, they work a 9 to 5 at the company and they shoot all day, and like that's just what they do. It's not like they're gonna get paid millions of dollars being a photographer, but they're living nicely. And you're seeing, Apple was kind of the first company to push that whole in-house thing when they did that a couple years ago. All the other brands were like, wait a minute, if Apple's doing it, maybe we should have one.
Let's do it. Well, like there's this one company, the art director told me that basically they're not going to do campaigns anymore, that they're going to just feed social media. So, every 2 days they're doing a new shoot with their product and just doing it all online. So it saves them money. But I have this theory about online, because I think that the agents didn't jump on board. So when we would get our day rate and the usage, they weren't in touch with, what to charge for online usage. And now it's quickly becoming all online. So clients are used to paying that low rate of what they were getting for that online fee, even though the image is hitting so many more viewers. If you think about it, how many people are going to flip through a magazine and see a full page ad? But you put it online and you do it correctly. You hire somebody with a gazillion followers, you're going to get more action than in a magazine.
Yeah, wow, that is interesting, thinking about people are used to the rights usage in terms of just like the static stuff. And that even kind of goes back to music too, how music, they're like, oh, wait a minute, what are we going to do? We have streaming services and no one had those contracts in order. So I guess talk about that. You don't have to mention, but we've had a number of photographers and it's been very eye-opening in terms of budgets and things like that. So I guess we'll start from back when, what was kind of your budgets that you were playing with 10 years ago when you first started, even for like your first campaign? What was that budget like, just to get a sense?
It's like
whatever you feel comfortable saying. Dollar amount would be good.
Don't do that. It's changing. It's changing. You can see it. It's like what used to take 1 day, the money you would make in 1 day is now taking, 4 or 5 days. So it's changing, and people, you know, they don't. I go back to, it's so similar to the music industry. I have a lot of musician friends, and we talk about it all the time, that it's, you know, I think our industry just wasn't ready for what was going to happen online. So you can't sell something for 50 cents and then, you know, when it all becomes, you know, sell online for 50 cents, I'm just giving you a number, and then later go back and say, oh, we want $5. You can't do it because they're used to doing, you know, the lower rate.
Gotcha.
So I just think that, you know, when this all started going down, nobody was ready for it. And now this is it.
Gotcha. So it kind of seems like there's this like high and low end of like, either you're in an agency like LGA, or you have your own personal brand with cool style, and you can go directly to clients, like you're saying with True Religion, which I didn't know about that. So that's very cool. So yeah, there's a lot of smart young brands out there who are being like, we don't need no agency, we don't need no campaign. Photographer, come here, just shoot this.
Exactly, because they're just feeding it nonstop. So, I mean, if I was back in advertising, I would probably be doing the same thing. So I can't knock it.
But now you're in photography, so it's
yeah. Now I'm like, oh, this hurts.
So in terms of, I guess, so this probably leads, you know, to the kind of last segment of this is motion. So motion's like this new huge thing, and it seems like there's a lot of potential in film and video, because one, you know, everybody's there's it's not so much that there's a new budget for it, but because it's not something you could just make and it looks good, there still needs to be a lot of production values. Obviously, someone like yourself can really shine there. And I guess so just talk about, you know, how you envision motion moving forward.
You know, that's a tricky question, because I don't know. I mean, I've been posting little videos on Instagram.
Hey, Ruth, right back at you. So Ruth literally just asked you about that, and I timed it perfectly.
Yeah. Well, I started like last week going, okay, you know, and here's another thing. So I'm starting to post little videos just to kind of get my work out there, because those videos I'm posting are old, actually. I haven't shot personal work in motion in probably a couple of years, which I need to do. But, you know, here's the one thing on social media, one thing that I'm doing. I don't know if you guys will go online to my on Instagram, but I started getting obsessed. This kid's tooth fell out on set. And I was like, so I started getting obsessed with like all these crooked teeth and these kids just having whacked out teeth and losing, you know, it's just an awkward stage in life. So I'm on there, and then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to hashtag Colgate. You know, I'm basically giving them, you know, but I'm trying to get their thinking, maybe I can get their attention that they would want to use something like this as a campaign. So I think hashtag, I might be way wrong, I don't know, but I'm thinking if you hashtag certain things that you want those people to see, that maybe the chances are they might see it. Who knows? If you can.
And what do you think about cinemagraphs and GIFs as well? Obviously, Giphy, the website Giphy has blown up. They raised like $100 million. So clearly GIFs are like this new thing.
I don't know what that is.
You've never seen an animated GIF or a cinemagraph?
I've seen an animated GIF, yeah, for sure. But is it a new website, or is it a new app that's out?
So basically, uh-oh, now we're going to school you.
Okay, good. Bring it. I don't know. I'm like, I just got on Snapchat. I'm like, this is insane. Like, I can't keep up with all these.
So a cinemagraph is basically an animated GIF, but but what you do is you isolate just a specific area of the image. So it kind of has like a Harry Potter thing where like only the head will be moving, but everything else is still. I'll send you some cool examples. I'm
gonna leave that for the 16-year-olds. They can do it.
Well, I mean, you're seeing like there's a lot of photographers. I mean, I'll go to agencies and they'll have like a cinemagraph section, and like you'll click into it, like art and commerce. Like there's certain photographers who were like into that kind of stuff. Yeah, Bernstein and Julie. So like, definitely get on that.
And it's one image, or is it a bunch of stills that they've slapped together?
It's taking a little bit of video, and then you can go in Photoshop, and like I kind of know how to do it, but I don't really I'm more of a music guy. But yeah, and then you just go in Photoshop and quickly isolate a particular area, and it's like 5 or 6 seconds, and you just loop it. I'm going to send you some awesome examples.
Okay. Interesting to see.
Cool. Oh, and Ruth mentioned something about Nick Knight said the 15-second Instagram video is becoming the most important and requested thing in a fashion campaign. Are you seeing that?
I believe that. I believe it.
So somebody posted something. Let's see if she did something here. Maybe I can do a quick screen share if this loads up so you could get a sense. Okay, here we go. Click on this image. Let's see if this loads up. All right, I'll do a quick screen share. We have to school you. We have to bring you into this world. Okay. Yeah. Screen share didn't work. Let's try again. That one didn't move, Vania. I'm not sure what happened there, but let's see about this one.
Is this the website Giphy?
Yes. So this is just an animated GIF. I'm going to try to pull up some dope. Because I can pull up the Cinemagraph real quick just to kind of keep you on the loop here with these. Here we go. Yes. So actually the guy that created them, I think his name is Jamie something. He's he's become like really popular for these, and they're like they're just like taking things over. But yeah, so animated GIFs and cinemagraphs, which is just like a little piece of the animated GIF moving, has just become super huge. I'm trying to see if any of these will load
a bunch
up.
of frames.
Oh, here we go. So do you see this image?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically just, only that like part at the top is moving. Yeah, so it's like really cool. Let me see if there's some more. Oh yeah, so here we go. Here's another one. So you can see how just Grace Cottigan's head's moving, but none of the none of the rest of the frame is moving. So it just really draws you in. So you'll see things where like, if it's for fashion, you'll see just like the bag moving or the shoe or the lipstick. So it's really cool for product. I can see why, cinemagraphs and these short videos are becoming very popular, because it allows you to kind of focus a user's attention on just one specific thing. So yeah, so there you go. Boom.
I better get busy.
You've been schooled. You've been schooled. Awesome. Wow, this has been amazing. I love, where the crowd is giving you some life too. That's cool. Yeah, but I'll actually send you some links after this. But yeah, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you.
This has been awesome. We'll have to get you back on here down the line to just catch up and see if you've done some cinemagraphs. And we'll have to catch up and see if the Colgate hashtag if it pays off. So thank you so much, everybody. A couple of logistics. So you'll be able to go to the question section and click on those various questions if you want to jump to the specific points that she was making. And also, this video will be ready to play back immediately once we're done watching this. But yeah, once again, Dani, thank you so much. I'm ever in LA, I'm gonna stop by and chat. We'll have coffee or something. Me, you, and Alvin. It'll be a good time. All right, thank you so much, Dani.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.